Welcome back. And there's been more good people coming back and telling me their success stories training with the science of the mind. So that's fantastic. Good people doing some good training, thinking some good thoughts, and speaking some good words, and coming back and speaking good words to me, and just doing good things, to help out other people, to help themselves. It's beautiful to hear these good things happening out there. And one of my best friends telling me about how I put ripples out there, through my own kindness, through my own care for all of you good folks out there, that I put ripples out there, and that the ripples then go on and ripple around in other people. And they were telling me how one of their good friends was saying to them that that in the older generations, it was like, in the times past in our human history, like in our culture here in Australia and probably around the world, it was a big deal that people wouldn't want to admit to any sort of mental illness. And so this good friend of theirs was talking to them about the fact that people didn't want to admit, and they were saying that their father suffered with terrible symptoms of paranoia and just symptoms of mental ill health, but that he could never admit it, and that they were thinking that maybe nowadays they would be able to admit it, and they'd be able to get help and be able to recover their mental health. And I was agreeing that this is so true. This is fantastic, isn't it? The stigma, the judgments. Like my best friend was saying to me how, they saw this young person crying, like a 15-year-old, young person, really big, strong person physically, 6'2", 6'3" kind of thing, but just crying and crying and weeping, expressing their emotions. And they were saying how lovely that was, how beautiful that was to see that. And they were commenting that when they were growing up, that a 15-year-old, that it would have been unacceptable. It would have been really badly judged, that this person is weak. I think they said they used the word weak, that they'd be judged as being weak, and that they'd get the message, that you can't cry, and you got to buck up and carry on, and all of these sorts of emotionally unintelligent responses that actually weaken our mental health, and that cause mental ill health there. But they were saying that was normal back in those days. So isn't it a lovely thing, to notice these cultures shifting and the attitudes changing, because they were saying that many people were around, but this, young person was allowed to cry and cry and cry, and people actually came up and hugged and supported them and appreciated them. So hearing these sorts of stories is just beautiful. And they were also telling me this story about someone who they've had a history of having troubles with in their life for years and decades. But they told me this lovely, lovely story. My best friend was telling me this story about how they actually have forgiven each other. They've actually made up and been really kind to each other. And I was getting tingles just listening to these beautiful, lovely, lovely stories. Just tingles of inspiration. I was commenting how inspirational these sorts of things are. So there you go, there's my best friend coming along to me, training in the science of the mind, telling me all these lovely things and inspiring me, and helping me to understand how good this training in the science of the mind is, that there really is a science to this, a cause and effect that we can reliably follow and train in, and gain a fitness in. And